Usually a series is commissioned in the middle of its run, so we usually hear, I don't know, around November time, and we knew, a few months back, and that meant we could plan the story arc really over 26 episodes, which is fantastic, to be honest.
But I did make a mistake in an interview saying that it gave us more creative space.
Yes.
And so whenever the scripts, were late, and of course they're always late, everybody kept on saying, so you had a lot of creative space then. So I died by saying that. And it's actually a huge relief. I was so nervous watching that this evening, because you said, we only finished it at 2:30 this afternoon, and one of the HD players broke, so we only had about 45 minutes to review it. So thank God it worked, I tell you. My heart's been going through the whole thing.
He was actually curled forward in his chair the entire time.
Pretty scary.
Just to start off with, in terms of season 4, you're trying to make it more cinematic. I mean, can you tell us about your kind of ambition in that respect?
Well, I think it's always at the end of each series, Julian and I get together and go, what can we improve? And I think the one thing that we had last year is we started having these fantasy landscapes, but we always felt that we couldn't find sort of sets or locations big enough that gave us that kind of fantasy feel. So we sort of decided to take the bold step forward and do some more kind of green screen sets to give us, much more kind of epic scale and be more Lord of the Rings in our
And the Islands of the Blessed is a really good example of that, isn't it?
And the other thing that we did this year was we bought the matte painting in-house, didn't we? Which is
we've got a great team.
We've
done a very good job.
They've done an amazing job with the look of the show. So all of our landscapes now in this series have got a much more sort of epic feel to it. So that's been very exciting.
I think for these guys, have spent a lot of the shoot in green boxes, which is different. Katie spent almost the entire shoot in green boxes.
Yep. That Isle of the Blessed was the altar, Millie, and the floor. That was it. Everything else there is added in the imaginations of our execs. Not in my imagination, it didn't look like that for me.
So Colin, when you're doing a scene like that, say, for example, when the skull's flying at you, how does that work in terms of when it's being filmed? How do you know where to react and all that kind of stuff?
A bit of guesswork, a bit of imagination, and a bit of someone shouting "Daraka!"
It's very
so it's a good trio combination of being afraid of a Daraka. But yeah, again, it's just a big imagination thing, really.
Can you just tell us a little bit about how the kind of commissioning process works in terms, I mean, for example, if I'm right, it was 10 episodes originally, then it became 13, and then you were doing season 4, and then you found out you were doing season 5, and I mean, how does that work? Is there a kind of constant negotiation going on, or at what point are these sort of things decided?
To be honest, to most of us, it remains a mystery. These conversations are had within the BBC, and often it's a combination of people in the drama department at Wales and the controller of BBC One deciding how many they want and what we can deliver, and whether they want another series. And that's based on all sorts of factors. It is very unusual to be given 2 like we were before we air. It's incredibly valuable, and we're very grateful. But it is unusual, absolutely.
And it gives us lots of creative space.
And we've kind of touched on this before, but obviously you've got the kind of the core cast of 6, 4 of whom are pretty much enslaved for 30 weeks non-stop, and then you've got Richard and Tony who have other commitments and are kind of brought in. And so what happens, as I understand, is you just work around those actors when you have them, and everything is just kind of flat out to get all their scenes done, is it?
I mean, with Richard and Tony, Richard's amazing because he does Merlin, but he's also artistic director of Sheffield Crucible. He does documentaries, so his schedule is kind of like playing 3-dimensional chess, kind of getting him in the right. And the same with Tony. We gave him a little bit of time off this year to do what he's in America at the moment, so he had to shoot all his stuff just before he left. But it's great to have them in the show, and I think they like to be in the show because we allow them to do other things as well, and they're not sort of tied into it. And they give us great value, and both of them have got great things to do this year, so it's been really exciting working with them.
When we were talking this time last year, and I was probably rather unkindly kind of casting you as the kind of pantomime villain and kind of talking about Morgana in a kind of real kind of boo-hiss kind of way, you very eloquently talked about actually the real kind of motivation behind what makes Morgana tick and where she is, and obviously as an actor you've thought about that in a lot of detail in terms of understanding where she is. I mean, from your point of view, is that important as an actor to be able to kind of connect with your character and to know exactly why they're behaving in the way they're behaving, rather than just say, oh, well, they're just bad and that's because they're bad? Because
absolutely. Morgana is more than one thing. She's a character that has many facets to her. And I think this episode shows that, and I think you're going to see it throughout the series, because what I didn't want, and I'm sure that's not what Johnny and Julian wanted, was her to just be a boo-hiss villain, a one-dimensional. And she's not, because they've spent 3 years creating this amazingly well-rounded character, and season 4 only continues that. And yes, she might be slightly misguided, slightly, but I think when you see it, I hope that maybe you don't agree with her, but you understand it.
And our intention was always that you would to a certain extent sympathise with Morgana on her journey and understand why she went down the wrong path. I think that was always essential. The wrong path.
She does believe
Back to me sympathising with my character, really.
Well, actually, I do.
And Angel, you have got some kind of quite major storylines coming up in terms of, obviously, Arthur. Now you had your kiss in front of the Knights of the Round Table at the end of the last series, so you're out in the open in that respect. I don't know, can we talk about the fact that in the Arthurian legend we know that Guinevere has more than just one love interest?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk about that, Johnny, Julian?
Yeah, we are.
Didn't you snap Merlin?
There's another one.
Didn't you snap Merlin as well?
Yeah.
I mean, you know...
yeah, no,
I'm just bitter, okay?
No, yeah, obviously Lancelot is back in this series, and he does maybe throw a bit of a spanner in the works at some point. But at the beginning of the series, she's very much focused on...
Gwen is entirely blameless.
Arthur, she is. It's very much focused on Arthur and being there for him and there for his father who's not well, and yeah.
But I think that one of the big Arthurian legends that we explore in this series is the love triangle between Lancelot, Arthur, and Guinevere, and there's some really intriguing twists to how that love triangle plays out throughout the 13 episodes.
The show is showing. I don't know how many countries it plays in now, but it plays all over the world, doesn't it?
It's 183 territories.
I mean, that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in fact, it's getting a round of applause from the back from somebody who
I think North Korea is the only place that's not playing us at the moment.
I think that might have been a member of the
We
crew.
don't have
at
it
the
in
back.
Ireland. But we just rob it off the BBC.
Is it not,
You just steal it from the beach.
is it not playing in Ireland?
Well, no, because we can watch it on the BBC.
Why would you need to?
Yeah, they all do.
How much influence do those international territories, particularly America and the Sci-Fi Channel, have over the production? I know obviously the BBC has influence over the production because of your deal with them, but do they have any influence at all, or are they just receivers of the content?
They just buy it. They don't have any creative input. It's Julian and I and Shine just work with BBC Wales, and that's what's so brilliant about it for Julian and I is that we work with Bethan and BBC Wales, and they allow us to follow our creative vision and but keep us on track at the same time. I think that's been very liberating.
No, it has, and it's quite rare as well. I think we're lucky in the sense that the material is quite universal, and the legend's very well known, and I think that does help it travel.
And obviously, in terms of kind of the families who watch the show, they're growing up with, as each season goes on, they're kind of growing up with the characters, but presumably there are still kind of judgment calls about how scary you can make, and it did feel, I mean, not in a critical way, but it felt this was a pretty scary episode actually to sort of, to start off with. And I mean, how far can you kind of push the envelope in that respect?
It's a very interesting and delicate line to tread. Obviously, we didn't make 13 episodes like that, and it would be wrong if we had. Some episodes are very, very funny and quite light. I think the series has grown up. It's got more sophisticated as we've all got more sophisticated with it, and as our cast has grown and the characters have grown. The Merlin now, you couldn't imagine Merlin being the naive character he was in Series 1. He's miles beyond that. So I think you have to go with that because that's the story you're telling. And the advantage of a show like this is your audience sort of goes with you and expects that growth. And you saw it, Harry Potter's the obvious example of that process. And I think you can do it. You have to be careful. We're incredibly careful about things like violence. But I think a bit of suspense is something that this genre is known for. And Doctor Who has traded on for 40 years. So I don't think that's a wrong thing. I think there are many things that we are careful of. But I think a bit of suspense can really work.
Just over to the actors. I saw recently like one of the call sheets that you have, and obviously actors always say, oh, we have terribly long days, and you think, oh yeah, your actors get on with it. But actually, the call sheet that I saw is astonishing. I mean, you start filming incredibly early, and you really do work throughout the day. I mean, could you just sort of just talk us through, perhaps Colin, just start off in terms of what time on an average day you would wake up, and when you get to the set and you're in makeup, and how the day pans out for you?
Okay, if you're on a normal day, starting from 7:30 to 7:30, your pickup time would normally be just before 6. Depending if you're at the studio. If you're on location, then it might be earlier, between 5 and 5:30 maybe. Yeah, you get there, go through hair and makeup to be on set for 7:30. So your hours start from when you're on set.
This is what you've been doing today as well, is it?
This is what this morning, yeah. And then yeah, you right through to 7:30, and then get out of hair and makeup, and then I guess you're what time? You're back home for sort of around 8 o'clock. So
I would like to point out that the boys take far longer to get out of their costumes and take their makeup off than the girls do. I have 10 minutes in the car waiting to go,
I think
sitting there waiting for Bradley.
The Knights of Camelot take a long time.
The Knights of the Occasional Table? Is that
Yes.
what you
Knights of
said?
the Occasional.
How does that fit in terms of, just touching on the Knights of Camelot? Obviously, you've got your kind of ensemble cast of 6, and you're obviously a very strong 6, but that has now properly expanded now, hasn't it? I mean, you do have the Knights of the Round Table there as well. I mean, how has it been kind of allowing people into your inner circle?
We love it. I mean, we enjoy working with each other, and that's great, but it's always really exciting to kind of see the new scripts, and there's new characters coming in, and who's it going to be, and the Knights have been brilliant. It's just been lovely having them around. It's nice having kind of expanding the world of Camelot, and also just having nice people to work with, and they're all genuinely lovely characters, lovely people.